Hi, we're here today to talk about mental health. Now, mental health can mean so many different things to different people. The physical symptoms, the emotional symptoms, it can just vary person to person dependent on what they're suffering with. Today, I'm going to talk about how my anxiety affects me and how I came to start my road to recovery. I don't know when my anxiety took hold of me. I can't pinpoint it to an exact time in my life where I suddenly realized that I had anxiety. But I can gradually work out over time that it was starting to become worse. It was, one day I'd be really worried, and then I'd be okay, and then, kind of the next week it would be a couple of days, and then it would kind of just gradually moved on over time. This was about 18 months ago that this started. It wasn't just the worrying and the anxiety that I had at home. It suddenly started to affect how I felt when I went out. It suddenly started to stop me from wanting to go out. I was scared of the the crowds and the people and everything. It was just horrible. It just takes over your brain, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Now, the one way that I describe my anxiety is I have like two switches in my head. You've got the positive switch and you've got the negative switch, and it felt like someone had turned off the positive switch. They'd barricaded it up, they'd put a barrier in front of it. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere near the positivity. So everything turned negative in my life. I felt like I was failing as a mum. I felt like I was failing as a wife and sort of keeping the house together, our financial situation, everything. It was that switch that just kept plugging away at my entire life. Everything around me just felt like I wasn't good enough for it. It felt like I wasn't able to achieve it. My confidence, I felt like no one liked me. It was just a whole big bubble of negativity that was following me around. It was literally kind of all in front of me. There was no positivity at all. And this went on for months and months and months, and it gradually got worse. There came a time where I literally didn't leave the house for I think it was just over 6 weeks from the one time. This was before lockdown, so this was back in 2019, so that, there was no restrictions at all. This was just me not wanting to leave the house. I didn't leave the house at all. The furthest I kind of went was into the front garden, but that was it. I didn't leave to go anywhere. And it not only affected me. Obviously, I was quite happy to stay at home. I didn't want to leave to go out, but it affected the family. It affected my children. It affected my husband. Obviously, other family members were concerned as to why wasn't I appearing at different, functions and things like that, because I just couldn't. I could not do it. So it was a really difficult time. Now, in obviously 2020 has been an incredibly hard year for so many different people, for lots of different reasons, not just mental health, but for other reasons as well, financial and, all of that kind of stuff. And what I found was that between March and June of this year, I don't know whether the lockdown, obviously the lockdown didn't bother me. Suffering with social anxiety, I was, quite happy to be at home, and I was quite happy to keep the children at home. And we developed a very quick routine of how the day was going to go, and it wasn't a problem at all. The children understood, that at the moment we weren't going anywhere. We took them for walks out into the woods and, places like that where I knew I wasn't going to see anybody. It was just me, the children, obviously, and that. And I was quite happy with that. In June of this year, it was kind of heading towards the middle to late June of this year. It felt like I had the strength in me to flip that positivity switch. And it was really weird because all of a sudden I suddenly started thinking to myself, actually, I could do this. Oh, I did this today. Well done me. And it was really weird. And it wasn't all the time. I didn't suddenly just not have anxiety anymore. And I still have massive anxiety now, and especially social anxiety, as well. But there was that little trigger. There was that little light that was suddenly shining very brightly, but very far away. And it was kind of calling to me, going, you can do this if you want to. You could actually start to turn your life around. So I then started to find ways that were going to help me. I started to do meditation. I started to do affirmations. I started journaling, writing things down, getting it out so that it wasn't swirling around in my head. The dogs decided to play with a bottle. I'll come back. And I'm back. So I started to do all of these different things that were really going to start helping me, which I didn't realise at the time. I just thought, I've got to do something to try and make this work. So the meditation, a lot of people, when they think of meditation, you sort of envisage a big white room, and you're sat cross-legged in the middle with a candle, and kind of very at peace with yourself and the world. There's no noise. Now, we live in an extremely busy household, and you don't get quiet in this house. And I found that it was quite unnerving having that quiet time, and I wasn't able to really kind of get within myself when I was doing it. And I found that actually what I did was I had this shelf which was full of all of my memories, my little trinkets, things that the kids have given me, mementos from going on holiday, all things like that. And I had these things on this shelf in my office. And what I actually did was I sat there in front of these things and I just looked around them. And I smiled at the memories that they were bringing back to me. And I made sure that it wasn't very quiet, but with the door shut, I could still hear the children in the background playing and, kind of the washing machine on, just everyday normal noises. And that's what I found really helped for me. I wanted to be able to take 5 minutes for myself, but I didn't want to shut off the one thing that was comforting to me, because my house and my family are my security, and I felt that if I was going to shut them off from it, although I needed to work on myself and my self-development to be able to start fighting my anxiety, there's always that comfort switch, and there's always that comfort zone that's around you, and I wasn't ready to let that comfort zone kind of disappear altogether. So I used to just sit there looking at my memories very quietly. Sometimes I would close my eyes, sometimes I would kind of do breathing exercises, that kind of thing, but the majority of the time I was literally just sat in front of this shelf just looking over it. And this shelf is cram packed. I mean, I've got all of my memories on this shelf. There isn't one bit of shelf left, but to me it was so comforting, to be able to just sit there for 5 minutes. And I had some affirmations that I wrote to myself. So I think it was a list of about 11 or 12 things that I wrote down. And what I did basically was I had that piece of paper on the shelf at the back. So sort of as I was running my eyes over the shelf, I was reading these things as well in my mind. Things like, I am a good mum. I can achieve what I want to achieve. I'm not fat. I'm not ugly. I was saying all of these things because it can take sort of 21 to 30 days for your brain to actually start to digest and understand and believe something. So, kind of it's the same as when you're trying to learn something new. It can take a while for your brain to be able to let it sink in. It's very rare you're going to be able to read something and that's it. It's there. So what I did was I was able then to move the meditation on to constant affirmations. So on a morning when I was getting ready, on an evening when I was just led into bed, I would repeat these things to myself and I would say, what was I grateful for that day? Now, it can be anything. I could be grateful that I did the vacuum cleaning one day. I could be grateful for the fact that, I made the kids' tea, washed up afterwards, and the kitchen was tidy. Everybody's life is different. Everybody needs to be able to understand that just getting out of bed when you suffer with mental health, getting yourself dressed and getting on with your day is an achievement. It is something that we should all be so proud of ourselves for achieving, because there are days where you can't get up or you don't want to get up. There are days when you just feel like an absolute failure, and those days, although they're not okay, those days are okay. It's fine. We're all just winging it in life. Let's be honest. We are just winging it in life. Everything that's happened in 2020, no one knew from one day to another what was going to happen. And our emotions are going up and down. We've got a ray of hope. We don't have a ray of hope. We're doing this, we're doing that. We're being told what to do. No one ever expected that in 2020, this would be the way we were living our lives. So what I decided then to do was I was doing my meditation, not every day. I would say about 5 days out of 7. It could be 5 minutes, it could be half an hour, just depended on my family situation and what was going on at the time. Obviously you can imagine back in June, all the children were at home up until September. So I kind of had to fit this around my busy life as a mum. The affirmations, they're so easy because you can do them whilst you're making yourself a cup of tea. You're saying it in your head, so it's no different than whatever you're thinking. It's just having the memory to actually do it. So, you can put pictures up in the kitchen, you can put them up in the bathroom, you can put them in your bedroom, you can put them absolutely anywhere as long as you're seeing them daily. And especially moving them around, because when you start to realise that something's there, you don't look at it. So if you've got it on one kitchen cupboard, move it to the fridge so that when it's something new and your brain goes, oh, and then you remember, so you want to kind of make sure that you're always thinking of these things and repeating them over in your head. Then I started moving on to the journaling, and what I did was, to start with, I wrote a letter to myself and I said that I was sorry for how I treated me, because I wasn't looking after myself. I wasn't doing any type of self-care. I wasn't doing any type of self-development. I would like to point out I was showering, and all that kind of stuff, but I wasn't taking the time to look after me. I wasn't looking after my diet. I wasn't looking after my, physical exercise or anything like that. I wasn't sort of pampering my skin or any, nothing. It was literally just day-to-day routines. So I started journaling. I started writing this letter. I said sorry to myself for how I treated myself. And I promised myself that although, yes, there would be bad days, I was determined to win the war over my anxiety. I was going to lose battles every day. Once a week, whenever these battles came, I knew there was going to be some that I didn't win, but I was determined that I was going to win the overall war against myself, and I wasn't going to let anxiety sort of rule my life anymore, because it wasn't me, it was the anxiety in my head that was ruling my thoughts, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. But at the time, or looking back on it now, I didn't know that was what was happening. So then moving on, once I'd done my letter, I then decided that I was going to kind of almost keep a daily diary. It it was kind of almost, you know, when you're a teenager and you're just writing things down, you know, it's just kind of keeping tabs on moods, things that I did well, things that the children did, because the thing is, especially with mental health, you lose your memory quite a lot. There's quite a lot of things that happen during the day that you won't remember in the future. So being able to write these things down, you know, when the children said something funny or they did an achievement, it was writing these things down because I knew I'd be able to look back on it and be able to kind of go, well, I had a shockingly bad day as a person, but my children achieved this. So then I can look back on it and push what I felt to the side and just recognise that there was happiness that day. It was just my brain couldn't see it. I just couldn't accept it myself. So I'm doing the meditation, I'm doing the affirmations, I'm doing the journaling, and I'm gradually starting to look at me. I want to start kind of being me. I will always be a mum, I will always be a wife, you know, I will always work from home. But who am I as a person? I kind of had lost me as a person, and I didn't want that. I wanted to, although yes, I'm a mum, I still wanted to be me. You know, there was still me inside. It just was being really, really suppressed. So a friend of mine recommended to start writing down interests and hobbies and passions and things that I used to have, either before I was a mum, before I suffered with anxiety, back when I was a teenager, when I was growing up. What did I enjoy to do? What are the things that sort of excite me? And I started to write that list down, as ever random as they were. I absolutely love wearing high heels. Now, as a mum, a busy mum, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to be able to get back into the high heels that I've always wanted and always will love to wear. But it was still a passion of mine, and I've still got my heels. So I got them out and I put them on the sideboard in my bedroom, and I loved it because I could see them. Yes, I was never going to wear them, but they were still there. They were still a part of me, and I love... The dog's playing again. I don't know if you can hear, we've got a cockerel in the background as well. So I started to kind of get all of these things out of my brain onto paper every day. When something I would spot something on the telly, you know, the children would say something about something they liked, and I thought, oh, actually, I used to like doing that. So I used to write it down. And what I found was, it wasn't all about just suddenly becoming this different person. It was suddenly starting to incorporate me into my day. You know, so it was watching a favourite programme that I hadn't watched for 10 years. You know, finding something on YouTube, you know, that kind of thing. Just being able to bring a little bit of me back out of myself, you know, and it was okay to laugh with the kids. It was okay that, you know, I was happy for 5 minutes at some point, you know, and it was hard to accept. I'm shaking because the dog's rolling around on the floor and he's shaking the bar. You know, it was hard some days, and it was hard some days. It was definitely, they were the battles that I was losing, because I had to keep reminding myself that it's okay, that the world isn't as scary as what I'm making it out to be. But what I felt was, over time, between June and September, which, to be fair, were kind of probably some of the hardest months that we had in the UK, because we had no idea what was going on. You know, we'd come out of lockdown, we were going back possibly in, we were all over the place. So being able to deal with the outside world and not being able to just kind of shut myself into my house because all of this was affecting that, it was a massive war that I had decided to take on. And what I find is, you have to work very slowly on your mental health. You're not going to be able to one day wake up and go, that's it, I'm cured, I don't have mental health anymore. I may always suffer with anxiety, but that's okay, because I will be able to understand it, I'll be able to control it, and I will be able to know that actually a dip is a dip, and I will come back stronger. And that's really kind of where I want the Mother Hen mission to go. I want everyone to be able to understand that mental health is okay, and with support and, you know, care and love, everyone can start their own journey. So yeah, if you suffer from mental health, or you know someone that's suffering from mental health, please put them in touch with the Mother Hen mission, because that's what I'm here for. I want everyone to be able to see from my view how I live with my mental health, and I want to be able to show people that I still am able to have, you know, a good home life, and that I'm fighting my fears and jumping outside my comfort zone, not daily, but more regularly than I used to. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please keep looking for the other videos. Head over to themotherhenmission.com. Come and see me, come and say hi. You can find me on all social media channels. And yeah, if you need anything at all, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Bye.